Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Man, it just went like that, didn't it? Went too fast. So, hope you have a great week. Let's get it off to a wonderful start this morning.
No prescription required. Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time. I don't believe in a no-win scenario. This is the
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Monday, April 28th. We had a big drug enforcement agency raid on MS-13 in Colorado. Over 100 people arrested. This happened over the weekend, and there's a lot of footage of these DEA agents descending on the nightclub over the weekend. More than 300 law enforcement officers from both federal and local agencies were involved in this. And you're seeing the video of this this morning. It's a big story. There were 114 illegal migrants detained following this, according to authorities. And federal officers could be seen breaking a large front window of this building as people were running off into the night. Many of them wearing what you would expect in a nightclub. This was early Sunday morning. And there were a number of folks that were a part of this. So authorities are saying what was happening inside was drug trafficking, significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. Police said we seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club and involved in some of these crimes. That's really sobering, disturbing. DEA agents say they found cocaine and pink cocaine. 2 people were arrested on outstanding warrants during the raid, according to Pam Bondi. So this was huge, a multi-agency law enforcement operation netting more than 100 illegal immigrants. So federal authorities announced this yesterday. Pretty crazy, and they say that this club was frequented by Tren de Aragua and MS-13 terrorists. This is the DEA Rocky Mountain Division. This was a multi-agency operation, and again, there were more than 200 people inside, and of those, 114 were arrested. Illegal immigrants. Wow, that story is just huge. Also this morning, the president, this is an interesting story at foxnews.com. And they're saying the president finishing his first 100 days, I think that's coming up tomorrow officially. The president officially tomorrow will conclude the first 100 days. What do you want the president to focus on next? Is the question that Fox News was asking people. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then Fox News gets into their recent Fox News poll. I've got to tell you, I don't believe a lot of these polls. I just absolutely do not. We will talk about what would you like to see the president focus on next. But yeah, and I'll explain to you why there are a number of reasons why I don't trust or believe the polls. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent talked about this over the weekend. He told ABC News that she, of course, got a new Washington Post ABC News poll. So the president's, approval numbers are on the economy or underwater. And I love what Bessent said here. Gotta love these folks. He said, for the past 35 years, my business was analyzing data. So I think we probably got to dig down on those. In other words, these numbers. And he said, what I do know is that Americans are behaving very differently from what the surveys say. So the surveys may say that, but consumers are still spending. So I prefer to look at what Americans are doing rather than how they're answering pollsters. And I'm like, oh, can I send, like Scott Bissett, a milkshake or something? I mean, I just think that needs to be rewarded. What he's saying. And he's absolutely right. And I think you and I should take that same mindset. Let's look at what Americans are doing instead of what they're saying in polls. I hate polls. You know this. I talk about it a lot. I hate these polls. I think they are designed to try to tear Trump down, tear Republicans down, tear values. I just think there are a lot of things going on with those polls that I absolutely do not trust. And there are very few that you can look at and say, okay, now this makes sense. And Bissett, I think, is right. So let's look at what Americans are doing rather than how they're answering pollsters. And then you get into the, 55% who disapprove, and blah, blah, blah. What else is new? 44% who strongly disapprove. And that's about the same thing you see in every other legacy media poll. And Bissett said, when I look at the sum of the things that are being published, there was a story 10 days ago that said this is the worst April for the stock market since the Great Depression. But just 10 days later, the NASDAQ is up. He said, but I haven't seen a story that says, oh, the stock market has the biggest bounce back ever. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And trying to discern the truth in the midst of all of the parade of liars who are out there, because there's no other word for them. They're lying. And this is that's why I appreciate what Scott Bissett is saying. Let's look at what Americans are doing rather than, what these polls are saying. It's great point. Also, and I'm going to be jumping on that all morning long, I think, President Trump announcing yesterday he's bringing Columbus Day back from the ashes, he said. He said Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus. And he said not only destroy Columbus, his reputation, and all of the Italians that love him so much. So he said Democrats tore down his statues, put up nothing but woke, or even worse, nothing at all. Well, you'll be happy to know Christopher is going to make a major comeback, the president said. I'm hereby reinstating Columbus Day under the same rules, dates, and locations as it had for all of the many decades before. Oh, this is just going to infuriate people. And so that declaration came on the heels of the president's trip to Rome, attending the funeral of Pope Francis. And you see this, the outrage regarding the president at the funeral. He wasn't wearing a black suit. He was wearing a dark blue suit. And you have people melting down over what? It's just absolutely incredible, man. I am just blown away with how petty so many people are. It's just absolutely incredible. So the president saying, bringing Columbus Day back from the ashes. And, because you remember Joe Biden issued the first ever presidential proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day. And that was meant to be, the leftists viewed that then as a replacement for Columbus Day. And the president making it very clear yesterday that he will not follow the practice of recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day alongside Columbus Day. It's Columbus Day, and that's it. President making it very, very clear on Truth Social over the weekend. Also, the president saying yesterday that his tariff policy will substantially reduce, maybe even eliminate income taxes for some people. And he said when tariffs cut in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. Focus will be on people making less than $200,000 a year. Woo, woo, woo! You go, baby, go. The president said, yeah, I make a substantially less than $200,000 a year. Substantially less than $100,000 a year. The president said also massive numbers of jobs are already being created with new plants and factories currently being built or planned. This will be a capital letters bonanza for America. The External Revenue Service is happening, the president said. So he's talked about the External Revenue Service before. But again, when it comes to Trump, I think some of these things he's trying to engage people in debate. But when the tariffs cut in, he's saying your income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even eliminated. So the president was in Vatican City, as were many you had of the Roman Catholic faithful, visiting the tomb of Pope Francis yesterday, and finally passed the simple white tomb a day after he, the world had bid him farewell. There was a single white rose placed on the tomb that said Franciscus, the Pope's name in Latin. And people filed past, just incredible numbers of people. It was incredible. Many crossing themselves, snapping photos with their phones. And, you had ushers there trying to encourage people to keep going as quickly as possible. They're trying to get as many people through as they can, and a lot of reaction to this. So a special mass was held in St. Peter's Square for the Pope, and next will be the conclave. So you've got attention now turning to conclave, which will be the selection of a new Pope for the Catholic Church. And a lot of pieces, a lot of news, a lot of speculation over who that may be. Also, in a lawsuit filed last week, this really caught my attention. I'm just seeing this over the weekend, but Elon Musk is suing Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison over a state law regulating the use of deep fakes. Elon Musk says they're being used to influence elections. This is what he's saying in the lawsuit that he filed last week. X is arguing that the law passed by Minnesota violates its free speech rights. So in other words, you couldn't have 90 days before an election, you couldn't have deep fakes out there. In other words, you had people who were posting these, fake, and they're called deep fakes, but they're obviously parodies and whatnot, right? And the theme is elections. And in Minnesota, they're saying for 90 days out from any election, you can't engage in any of that. You can't engage in any of it. And this is why Elon Musk is suing. And he's saying it violates the right to free speech. So X is asking a federal judge to say this violates the First Amendment, block it from being enforced. This was a statute passed in 2023. Says a person who disseminates a deep fake or I got to tell you, I hate that word as it's used by the media and the left, Ellison and others. A deep fake. What a deep fake is what you and I would see and immediately recognize as a parody video. I mean, let's call it what it is. You watch it, and do you hear the voice of candidates, so on? Yes. Is it obviously doctored? Yes. You know, is it an issue of free speech? I want to get your thoughts on this morning, because I think it really cuts down to one of our basic rights, and that's the right to free speech. And at what point does government have the right to say, no, you can't do that, or that's confusing, or that's misleading? So X is saying that they could be accused of violating the statute and then be subject to criminal liability for merely having pictures displayed on the platform. And again, you've got a number of these become memes and so on. When does that encroach on free speech? I think, well, we'll talk about it coming up this morning. We'll get your take on it. Also, we're learning more about the illegal immigrant that is accused of taking Kristi Noem's handbag. He's been identified as a serial criminal from Chile, and he's a Chilean national, previously arrested for a similar scheme in London, according to law enforcement. Great story at the New York Post. So he was arrested over the weekend after he made off with Noem's handbag during her Easter outing at the Capitol Burger in Washington, D.C. So he is in the U.S. illegally. Any show of hands? Who's surprised by that? Anybody surprised? No one. No one's surprised by that. Police also arrested a second suspect, also in the country illegally. Again, show of hands. You surprised? Anybody? No. So the two suspects allegedly worked together as a pair, have committed similar robbery schemes across the country, according to police. There are photos of him in the establishment and making off with it. And Noem said on X, "Thank you to Secret Service and ICE and our law enforcement partners for finding and arresting the criminal who stole my bag on Easter Sunday as I shared a meal with my family." She said, "This individual is a career criminal who has been in our country illegally for years. Unfortunately, so many families in this country have been made victims by crime, and that's why President Trump is working every single day to make America safe and get these criminal aliens off our streets," is what Noem said. So, U.S. Attorney was asked, was Kristi Noem targeted because of her position? And authorities are saying, at least at this point, now they don't believe that was the case, that it was the Gucci bag that she was carrying, which was pricey. So it was the Gucci bag, expensive Gucci bag, that likely caught his attention. And again, inside was her driver's license, passport, DHS badge, apartment keys. And so U.S. Attorney Ed Martin said it was frankly a nice looking purse. This was not an amateur. This was a person, a thief that knew how to do this. You could see how he scouted the room out. So now you've got a couple of people under arrest. Also, you had Scott Pelley. For those of you who watch 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley was one of the correspondents on 60 Minutes, paid tribute yesterday to Bill Owens, who's the show's executive producer who resigned last week, saying right on the program, yeah, none of us is happy about what Paramount is doing. And he's saying that Owen, now keep in mind, Owens quit. He was not fired, he quit. He didn't like what Paramount was doing, and so he quit. And Pelley is saying, oh, it was hard on him and it was hard on us, but he did it for us and you. And this is just, it's a big story this morning. I would not be surprised if this starts trending. And that's a look at the big stories this morning. Thanks for letting me join you. 627, light rain, 63. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Weeknights 5 to 8. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
60 minutes. Give me a break, man. I think the reason he made the comments on the show was just simply to keep that in the news. And it's a total nothing burger. Who gives a crap? Who even watches 60 Minutes anymore? Anybody under the age of 60? I'm over 60 and I don't watch 60 Minutes. Okay.
Tens and tens of thousands of owners break free from their timeshares over the last 15 years. They have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, and they're going to provide you with a guaranteed solution to exit your timeshare. Call them today, 833-594-0077, or online it's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Grocery prices are still through the roof. Natural disasters are still devastating, and supply chains are still fragile. That's why millions of Americans are turning to My Patriot Supply, the country's most trusted preparedness company. Right now, they're offering $200 off their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. This kit feeds one adult 2,000 calories a day for 3 full months. It's packed in sturdy, long-lasting containers with a 25-year shelf life. And best of all, it ships fast and free. But this special offer is only available for a limited time. My Patriot Supply rarely offers discounts this steep. So if there's ever a time to get prepared, this is it. Get ahead of the next crisis. Whether it's a natural disaster, supply chain disruption, or something bigger, we're glad you took action. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com to claim your $200 discount. That's MyPatriotSupply.com. Again, MyPatriotSupply.com. Stock up.
6:30. Cloudy skies and 64 at Kello. Fox News Radio's coming up in a moment. Then we'll check in with Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. South Dakota's DCI says that officer-involved shooting back in early April was justified. Also, a pet dog tragically died in an apartment fire in Sioux Falls. Joe will have details coming up here on Kello. Excuse me.
As
Republicans work to pass a spending bill by Memorial Day. Top House Democrat Hakeem Jeffries at a Capitol Hill sit-in says for Republicans to cut as much spending as they want.
That means Medicaid. That's the only way to do it.
Another goal is to extend tax cuts.
If we do not get this done, we're going to have the largest tax increase in American history.
Oklahoma Congressman Tom Cole on Fox. At least one person's killed, several injured in a hit-and-run boat collision with a ferry in Clearwater, Florida.
Public Information Officer Rob Shaw says the ferry made its way to land following the collision.
Firefighters had to go into the water and help some people. There were also good Samaritans who were taking care of boats.
The U.S. Coast Guard and Florida Fish and Wildlife are now investigating.
Fox's Ted Linder, no word on any arrest, but the other boat has reportedly now been found. America's listening to Fox News.
Weather brought to you by Infinity Sedation Dentistry, Sioux Falls. They fix your teeth while you sleep.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Officers were justified in shooting a suspect at an armed standoff in Sioux Falls back in early April. That's the conclusion of Division of Criminal Investigation into efforts to arrest parole absconder Samir Al-Badani on April 1st. AG Marty Jackley says it was an extremely dangerous situation.
The information that law enforcement had received was that he was likely using methamphetamine, had a firearm in his waistband, and he made comments that he wasn't going back to jail alive.
Al-Badani allegedly stole a car from the Sioux Falls neighborhood and escaped to the Beersford area. He was confronted by state patrol officers there and was involved in another shooting incident. Troopers returned fire, wounding him in the arm. Al-Badani faces 11 charges, including attempted murder of a law enforcement officer. A pet dog tragically died in an apartment fire in Sioux Falls Sunday morning. Fire crews responded to the blaze at an apartment complex on South Thompson Avenue, quickly extinguishing the flames and confirming no residents were inside. But sadly, a dog was found dead at the scene. The cause of the fire is under investigation. And a Sioux Falls daycare worker faces 14 new child abuse charges. Chelsea Struss was already facing 4 counts after a video allegedly showed her dropping toddlers on mats. According to Dakota News Now, she remains in jail on a $25,000 bond with supervised visits allowed with her own child. And they say beauty is only skin deep, but the State Capitol Complex Beautification and Restoration Commission wants to look for some potentially ugly surprises beneath the surface. Deputy State Engineer Christy Day says it would be wise to consider all things before diving into a major restoration project.
There's a lot of infrastructure in this building that needs a lot of work, and we don't want to go through and make it look really pretty, but then come back and go, well, now we need to replace this plumbing and have to tear that wall apart.
Most of the Capitol's plumbing is original, made of cast iron or galvanized steel, and needs to be replaced. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Weather brought to you by Intech Cleaning and Restoration. If you need it clean, call the Intech team. IntechClean.com.
Watching a wave of morning thunderstorms moving east this morning, and then a lull in the activity, high near 80 early this afternoon, but another chance of thunderstorms today, and any of that activity that does develop could become severe. We do expect some of those thunderstorms to wrap up this evening. Our low temperature in the mid-30s. Tomorrow, cooler, high near 60. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm Brian Karstens.
Serving the Sioux Empire with the latest news and the greatest talk. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9 and Kello.com.
Sleazy social media influencers' recommendations are bought and sold without their fans ever knowing. But now the word is out. It's much worse than you think. I'm Kim Commando for LinkedIn Jobs. Post a job for free. Find qualified candidates quickly at linkedin.com/Kim. We know that celebrities like Justin Bieber, the Kardashians, Ariana Grande, Beyonce, Selena Gomez, and a host of others are for sale to the highest online social media bidder. Their endorsements are often bought and paid for. But the Los Angeles Times says it's not just products they're endorsing. New information that the Times claims is, quoting now, just coming to light, shows that more than 500 social media creators were part of a covert election effort by Democratic donors to shape the presidential election in favor of Kamala Harris. Now, I don't really care who endorses who for any public office, but the law requires that if you endorse anything for any kind of payment, you must disclose it. They did not. Get my free newsletter at getkim.com. As a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of clocking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. So when you're hiring, You need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. That hiring partner is LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates that you can manage all in one place. Their new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people. Either post your job for free or pay to promote. Promoted jobs get 3 times more qualified applicants. At the end of the day, the most important thing to your small business is the quality of candidates. And with LinkedIn, you can feel confident that you're getting the best. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim. That's linkedin.com/Kim to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Do it today. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. Taking your vehicle ride like new. 2 Sioux Falls Tire and Automotive Centers. Visit tires3.com.
Sometimes in the morning, I sit in my dining room at Washington Crossing. The sun is low, so it still has that red gold feeling as it streams in and warms my face. My coffee tastes especially good. If it's winter, the warm floor toasts my feet while I read the morning paper. This is exactly how I thought it would be. Find out how to join me at WashingtonCrossingRC.com and be blessed.
Not everyone who handles your personal information is as careful as you are, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the United States. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock will monitor hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. And if your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it guaranteed or your money back. Save 40% your first year with my name, Clay, as your promo code at lifelock.com. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to goodrx.com/GLP. That's goodrx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textline.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply or apply. Stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Looking to get doctor-prescribed medication like Ozempic or Wegovy? Zelty can help you get GLP-1 medications affordably, whether you have insurance and even if you don't. And 100% online. It's simple. Just text coverage to 200-300 to get started. Zelty can help you get Ozempic, Wegovy, or Zepbound covered by your insurance company, so you pay as little as $0 for the medication if prescribed. No insurance? No problem. Zelty can ship semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and Zepbound, for as little as $151 a month versus $1,000 plus for name brand medications. Either way, it's high quality medical care, weight loss coaching, and access to game-changing medications, all 100% online with Zelty and affordable with or without insurance. So don't wait. Text coverage to 200-300 to get started today on your weight loss journey with Zelty. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text coverage to 200-300. That's coverage to 200-300. Text coverage to 200-300.
I'm home and I love it. I'm home where I belong. I'm home and I love it. I'm home where I belong.
It's always nice to come home, but these days, many Americans are at risk of foreclosure and losing their homes. Fortunately, help is available. Making Home Affordable is a free program from the U.S. government that has already helped over 1 million struggling homeowners, and we want to help you.
I'm home, and I love it. I'm home,
Find out now what your options are. Go to makinghomeaffordable.gov or call 1-888-995-HOPE. The sooner you act, the better chance we can help you.
I'm home, where I belong.
Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Bruce Fabrizio, inventor of Simple Green, the concentrated cleaner that's perfect for making your auto, RV, cycling, boating, and other sporting equipment look like new again. Visit us at simplegreen.com.
Kello is more than just a radio station. We're live online 24/7 at Kello.com. We're never more than a couple of words away on your smart speaker, and we're available anywhere, anytime.
We're online. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere.
Talk and news when it happens.
Thanks so much for being with us. I appreciate it. 20 minutes before 7. Cloudy skies, 64 currently at Kello. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
Well, the Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin, talked about the arrest records of some of these illegal immigrants that were arrested over the weekend. She was on Fox News. And they had, officials had carried out Operation Tidal Wave in Florida, arresting nearly 800 illegal immigrants during the 4-day operation. And she said this was a major success. It was a large-scale operation. And to your point, this is a preview of what is to come throughout the nation. We have partnerships under 287 authorities. She's saying 287 authorities that Secretary Noem signed, and this empowers state and local law enforcement to actually be able to use their enforcement authority to carry out immigration enforcement. Also, Ukraine over the weekend reported that 149 Russian drones that had been launched into the country during the early hours yesterday. And they said this was coming just hours after the president met with the president of Ukraine at Pope Francis' funeral. And Ukraine's Air Force said that 57 of the drones were shot down, 67 were lost in flight. And Russia is just unrelenting. Russia has also announced that they had regained full control of Kursk from Ukraine. Now, Ukraine denies this, but a top Russian commander said it had been recaptured 8 months after, the incursion by Kyiv. And the president also said over the weekend that he doubts that Vladimir Putin wants to end the war in Ukraine. And he expressed skepticism that a peace deal can be reached. So the president had said on Friday that he believed the two sides were very close to a deal. And then on Saturday, he said there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns over the last few days. And this was as he was on his way to the service, the funeral of the Pope. And he said, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying, the president said. Also, while we're talking about the issue of Russia and Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky arrived for the funeral of the Pope, and spontaneous applause broke out. Around 50 world leaders and 10 reigning monarchs were there. And as Zelensky arrived, when the crowd caught sight of him and his image appeared on the screens that had been set up around the square, applause could be heard when Zelensky showed up. Speaking of the Pope and the services. Roman Catholic faithful began visiting the tomb of Pope Francis. Then yesterday, filing passed a day after the world had said farewell, and people filing past, many of them crossing themselves, some snapping photos with their phones. Just a large number of people who were there to pay tribute. And this is a story from CNBC. Pope Francis being remembered as Pope of the people at his funeral. Some 250,000 people flocked to the funeral. And those who were there saying he was a pope among the people with an open heart toward everyone. All right, other stories that are trending this morning. The president yesterday vowed to bring Columbus Day back from the ashes. And he said in a post on True Social, the Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus, his reputation, and all of the Italians that love him so much. They tore down his statues, put up nothing but woke, or even worse, nothing at all. Well, you'll be happy to know Christopher is going to make a major comeback, the president announced. And he is reinstating Columbus Day under the same rules, dates, and locations, he said, as we had them that were in place many years before, the president said. The president, now, have been a number of stories trending about Shedeur Sanders in the first round of the NFL. So let's kind of start at the beginning. You had the president, and this story is trending. The president criticized NFL teams for not taking a look at Shedeur Sanders in the first round. Trump said, what is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid? He said Deion Sanders was a great college football player, was even greater in the NFL. He was also a very good coach, streetwise and smart. Therefore, Shedeur, his quarterback's son, has phenomenal genes and is all set for greatness. He should be picked immediately by a team that wants to win. He said, good luck, Shedeur, and say hello to your wonderful father. Well, the Cleveland Browns ended Shedeur Sanders' slide on day 3 of the NFL draft, making him the second quarterback they selected over the weekend. So the Cleveland Browns picking up Shedeur Sanders. Now, there is also a story surrounding Shedeur Sanders about a prank call that he received during the draft. So after Sanders dropped out of the first round, a video went viral of Sanders getting a prank call from someone pretending to be an NFL general manager. And after the conclusion of the draft, the NFL announced they were looking into it. And then a few hours later, Jax Ulbrich, is it Ulbrich? He's the son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Well, it turns out Jax Ulbrich was the one who was behind the prank call. And he posted a profuse apology to Sanders for the situation. Following that, the Falcons released a statement explaining what had happened, and they issued their own apology to Sanders and his family. So he apparently came across the draft contact phone number for Shedeur Sanders off an open iPad while visiting his parents' home. And then he wrote the number down in order to conduct the prank phone call. Yeah, it's not going over very well. Also, the National Institutes of Health could soon be collecting the private health data of Americans to create an autism registry, part of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s efforts to identify the cause or causes of autism. And the Blaze says the momentum behind the Make America Healthy Again movement is strong. In fact, so strong that RFK Jr. announcing multiple new studies on the role of environmental toxins in autism. So there's a lot of reporting on that. I mentioned this story to you earlier, but a man has been arrested then for stealing the purse of Christy Nome, which contained $3,000 in cash, her DHS access card. This was stolen from a restaurant in DC last week. And this guy is an illegal alien, and now a second person who's been arrested who is also an illegal alien. Also, a federal judge in Louisiana on Friday said that a 2-year-old U.S. citizen appears to have been taken with her mother to Honduras with no due process. And District Judge Terry Doherty wrote the child was sent to Honduras on Friday with her mother, who had been ordered to be removed. And Doherty said the government contends that this is all okay because the mother wishes that the child be deported with her, but the court doesn't know that. So in other words, I just think, what mother would not want their 2-year-old child deported with them? If they're being deported, the 2 years old, courts, craziness in the courts. It's just incredible. I shared this story on Facebook on Friday about the CEO of Camping World closing his North Carolina store over an oversized American flag that they fly. You know, Camping World just flies these huge flags. And so a Camping World store in Greenville, North Carolina, has been forced to close after the city council sued over an American flag that they said was too big. And his response was, he's not taking it down. He said, not when they sue, not when I lose, not if they take me to jail. The flag is not coming down, he says. We think the ordinance is wrong, he told the local station. I think it's also wrong. Council members have been working very actively to disparage my business, and on Friday, I had to consolidate modifications of 2 dealerships in town over a flag that the council thinks is too large. Pretty incredible. Elon Musk is suing the state of Minnesota over a law to makes it a crime to share deep fake information to influence an election. This is a story from the Star Tribune. In other words, if you put out an election parody of any kind, is that meant then to necessarily to influence an election? Isn't that you sharing your opinion in one way or another? Good luck, Minnesota. That's going to be an absolute disaster. Also, in its second weekend in theaters, Sinners earned $45 million in ticket sales in the U.S. and Canada. It's down slightly, 6% from its Easter holiday launch. So it's doing very well. Do you see what the second film coming in? 20-year-old Star Wars movie taking second place. The episode 3 is back in theaters. And I am debated as to whether I want to go see that. Again, episode 3. Also, Susan Rice, who is an ally of Barack Obama, who has served in multiple roles in both his administration and Joe Biden's, has called Pete Hegseth dumb as a rock after Hegseth fired her from the Pentagon Policy Board. And I saw pieces where people were saying, who knew that Susan Rice was who would have even thought she was still in government or still in any of these roles? Yeah, I think getting some of these people out of government is like trying to get rid of a leech. I mean, good luck with that. So she's out there calling Pete Hegseth dumb as a rock. She's infuriated over the fact that, and she just went on. I won't even repeat it. It's just nonsense. Also, Aaron Gordon, one of the NBA's highest flyers. Saturday night, Gordon jumped high enough to catch and dunk one of the most important shots of the year. It was the first buzzer-beating, game-winning dunk in playoff history. Helped the Denver Nuggets beat the LA Clippers 101-99 in Game 4 of their Western Conference first-round series. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month, $657, cloudy, $64. And you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
On the hour and entertainment.
Thanks, my friend, for letting me join you. I'll see you again at 9:30 for the 4th hour. If not, I hope you have a great Monday. Take care.
Safeguard your best investment before dripping. Your storm readiness expert.